Welcome one, welcome all. If you guys didn't catch Milan Weekly Podcast on Monday, that's Sunny the Designer coming up with yet again some more intros to make us look even more professional. Guys, it's not my fault. I was born with this curse of being this good looking, but Sunny just makes it even more better. So, guys, the local soccer show, guys, talking everything grassroots. So we're happy. Every second Thursday, we're bringing in new guests. And tonight, we do not disappoint once again. He's a veteran of the game. He's going to kill me for this one. He's a fellow Cusentino. Cusentino. Three Cusentino on one local soccer show, guys. Do you know how rare that is? Rarer than the pot at the end of the rainbow, guys. So this, the local soccer show, guys, wouldn't be possible without guys like we have Presidente in the background, master controlling the videos, controlling the questions, guys. And I know, and a special thanks again to Evangelista Sport, our sponsor, the mecca of Serie A and Calcio gear here in Montreal. You're looking for something Calcio, EPL, Spanish, guys, whatever you're looking for in terms of soccer apparel, they have it. Please, guys, check them out online, evangelistasport.com. They ship pretty much everywhere. Website's fantastic, very user friendly. And if you're here in Montreal, guys, check out their flagship store, 6821 Boulevard Saint Laurent, here in Montreal, guys. Again, local soccer show, guys. Please, we need your help too. Share this with your clubs, share this with your friends. Use social media, retweet, share, subscribe to Milan Weekly Podcast. We want to make Milan Weekly Podcast the network that houses shows like the local soccer show, shows like Milan Weekly Podcast, obviously, and Tutto Uno with our friend Ale Jacopone for the bilingual Italian and English content. So we're just making content for this beautiful Serie A, and for the team that we love, Milan, and for local soccer and grassroots soccer. So without further ado, we have something else. We're getting even more professional. The intro. Let's roll it, Presidente. And without further ado, now we're live, Anto. So I welcome to the local soccer show, his first cap here with us. I'm going to call him Anto, but I'm going to pronounce him by his name, Anthony Totera, a fellow Cusentino. Anthony, Anto, welcome to the local soccer show. How are you doing this evening?
I couldn't be better. Listen, thanks so much for having me on. Thanks to Marcello and yourself. But Stevie, I got to start by saying, listen, give me your address. Give me all the details. I'm going to send you a Canada hoodie. Get rid of that Missouri hoodie because come November, there's one team that's going to be in the mix, and that's Canada, the country that I love and the country that I've been following for 50 plus years. Not the guys in blue that decided to take a vacation against Macedonia there and decided that they were good to go to the World Cup. Watch a nation like Canada, young stars on the rise, my friend. So I'll send you a hoodie. Give me your address and I'll get it to you.
Double X, soppressata ma mangio. Anto, for anybody who has not seen you before, we talked earlier, and I was someone who used to tune into your podcast, Red Card. We're having ourselves, me and Vinny, doing the Red Card weekly. You had Red Card, and what I admired and we talked about were kind of similar in terms of we never held back, and we never, we said what we needed to say when we needed to say it, and that was the beauty and the purity of those podcasts. But for the people who don't know what you've done, if you can tell people a little bit about yourself and just a little bit of a calling card or a CV business card to what you bring.
Sure. I always like to tell friends of mine, colleagues, co-workers, and when I'm across Canada talking about the game I love, I never like to talk about the name on the back of the jersey. I always like to talk about what's on the front. And I'm a proud Canadian. I love the Canadian game. I was lucky enough to coach both of my sons at a grassroots level, but I was lucky enough to meet a gentleman by the name of Fausto Di Berardino. And he was the general manager back in the day in the old Canadian Soccer League, the team picture behind you can see me in blue, the North York Rockets. He was the GM. And I was lucky enough one day to meet him and practically beg him to let me do whatever I can to work in the pro game. And so I started to work with the North York Rockets in the early 90s under the tutelage and the gentleman that mentored me, Fausto. And that's where it all took off. That's where my love, my passion for Canadian football started earlier than that, but that's where my true love began with the pro game, scouting, grassroots, you name it. I was lucky enough, Stevie and Marcello, to work at Sportsnet, the Fan 590, all sports radio station here in Toronto for a number of years, doing a lot of different shows, doing a lot of different sports, but the sport that always was near and dear to my heart was football, calcio, and I love talking about that. And then fast forwarding, I was lucky enough to do a show called Red Card, as you mentioned, for a number of years on nextsportstar.com, where we had the best of the best, the creme de la creme of MLS players come on our show, European coaches, scouts. We talked a lot of grassroots. We didn't hold back as you do as well, which I was able to do. I looked at people in the face and I told them how I felt, and I told them the truth, and I wasn't always right, but I always dealt in the truth and being transparent. And so lucky enough to do Red Card for a number of years, and then my dream came back, and my dream of a reality was right in front of me, where the Canadian Premier League, a project that was near and dear to my heart. I was part of it many years ago, of just talking about a possible pro league returning after the one that I worked with and in the Canadian Soccer League. And so I was lucky enough to be almost a day one employee at the Canadian Premier League and working in the football operations department under some really good people that I really still care about a lot today. And Michael Finley from out west, James Easton, Aaron Nielsen, and a number of young guys there. And so I was lucky
So
enough to work there.
before you go on, and I don't want to cut you off there, we need to start writing some of these guys down because they need to come on the local soccer show. We're gonna need your plugs to get some further guests. But again, I'm really proud and honored to have you on there because it's something that, like you said, it's a dream come true, right? It's you're following your passion in a country where we're not really known for
Mhm.
soccer. We're always labeled with that stick and the puck as the sport that Canadians love and the world knows us about. But we're making a statement with Team Canada qualifying for Qatar 2022. That's for sure. You touched a little bit on coaching your sons, and before I get to my first question, it's something that I'm doing this now with my son. Marcello is doing it now with his son. What did you find was the most difficult in terms of coaching your sons?
I look back at it now, and in some ways I really enjoyed it. In some ways I really regret it, and I'll tell you why. You would know this now since you're coaching your sons, as you mentioned, is the spotlight is on your boy, and if he's not good enough and he's not pulling your weight, you're going to be looked upon as, well, he's just favoritism because it's his son, and that's why he's playing. That's why he's taking the free kicks. That's why, etc. Look, I look at it this way in many different areas we can talk about in the show, Stevie, when it comes to grassroots and coaching. For the most part, all across Canada, these coaches are volunteers. They don't get paid a dime. They're doing this out of the kindness of their heart. They're doing it because they love the game of football. They're doing it because they want to give back to the community. They're doing it because they want to help young men and young girls and give them something that they can enjoy, something that they're passionate about, something that energizes them, motivates them, and keeps them on the straight and narrow. And so a lot of times I think, even as a parent myself, I went, unfortunately, at some coaches, which I regret doing today. And when I look back, because they were volunteers and they're doing the best they can. And the advice I would give to parents today, and I've traveled all across Canada, I've spoken to almost 150 youth clubs and academies. And I would always tell the parents and the players this: your coach is not perfect. You're not perfect. You have issues, talk with your coach. Have it open, transparent talk. Now, the age obviously is important. I would say from anywhere the age of maybe 11 on up, the player, the young man, young girl has to talk to their coaches, Steve, if they have issues. Can't always be mom and dad, going there and discussing and arguing, getting mad for their son or daughter. At some point, they have to step up to the plate. That's what I told my kids. But these coaches, they mean well. And you know what they want, Stevie? I'll tell you what they really want. And I know this for a fact. All they want is years and years later, if they see a young man, a young girl at a Tim Hortons, at the local shopping mall, that they're recognized and they say, hey, Coach Stevie, hey, Coach Marcello, thanks. Thanks for coaching me at under 8. Thanks for coaching me at under 9, because I really enjoyed myself and you really taught me something. That to them is worth more than any money can buy, Stevie.
Yeah, no, I agree. And again, for myself, it was something that took me a little bit of time to make that decision, and for some of the reasons that you mentioned, right? I'm more of an old school guy, and we have a question here from another Calabrese, not Cusentina. It seems it's all Calabrian night tonight there. Him is Regitano, but Vincenzo Gattuso. He wants to know. We're going to go into this one right away because it's a hot button topic on the local soccer show. You're probably well aware of the new CDC and what Canada's trying to implement across the board to all the provinces in regards to their training regimen. So his question is, Anthony, what do you think of the new CDC that Canada has implemented in grassroots soccer?
It's good. I back it. I believe in it. Look, Stevie, years and years ago, the CSA, and I'll tell you straight, they weren't doing the things that really were good in the eyes of many good coaches, many clubs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I got to tell you, recently under the guidance, the help, the leadership of Nick Bontis, Peter Montopoli, John Herdman, who we can talk about obviously a little bit later, these men and the women's team with Bev there have done tremendous as well. They've really brought a professionalism. They've really brought a lot of knowledge. They've really brought a lot of things that needed to be done years ago to the forefront, and they've started to do good things. Look, I'm going to give credit to someone who I also think needs to be given credit, Jason DeVos, who's spent a lot of time, a lot of energy, speaking to a lot of youth coaches, clubs, and discussing things with them, bringing them all together in harmony. Look, Stevie, whether I agree or not, I've said this a million times. Let's get on the same page. Let's forget the politics. Let's forget all the other garbage, and let's be united for this country. Let's be united for the player and put the player first and do what's right for the player, not what's right for the wins and losses of that coach or that club, because in the end, it doesn't matter. I'm sitting to you in my basement of my house, and you can't see it, but around me, I still have hundreds of my son's trophies and medals here that are collecting dust, okay? That means nothing. That means absolutely nothing. Let's develop. Let's give great memories to these young men and young girls. Let's look back and say it was all worth it. Never mind the trophies, the medals, and all this other stuff. That doesn't matter.
No, again, it's a hot button topic there, and I've seen it with my own eyes. There's some positives and there's some negatives, and what's important is that Canada itself, as a body that governs this, actually has to govern it, and that's the only way it's going to work. So Canada, as the one who's implementing it and passing this message to the provinces, the provinces need to absorb this message and pass it on to the regions, and the regions pass it on to the clubs. If that's not done, I'm telling you, Anthony, I'm, again, like I said, I'm not afraid to say it, the program will fail. It will fail because, like you said, we're not on the same page. And if not everybody's on the same page and everybody wants to do what they want to do, we're going to be back to where we were 10 years ago, just going backwards.
Yeah, and that's not good. And you know why, Stevie? Because right now we are living in the golden time of Canadian football for men and women, both. But right now it's especially for the men, because after 30 plus years, we're back in the World Cup, and we're not going to be passengers, I can tell you that. I think we're going to scare some nations in Croatia and Belgium, and we're bringing young players. I know this for a fact, talking to a lot of people in South America and Europe, young players that clubs, world-renowned clubs, are coming to watch our Canadian players. So if we don't all get on the same page once and for all in this country, especially with all the good things that are happening, then you know what? We each individually need to look in the mirror and say, we are the problem, because the players aren't the problem. It's us adults. When we get involved, that's where the problems are, Stevie.
That's 100%. I agree. Once it's adults or parents, and excuse me here, I'm just moving in some of my paperwork here because I don't prepare for Milan Weekly podcast, but I do prepare for my guests on the local soccer show just because it's a different animal, right? Let's say we'll split up the categories here. Okay, so we're sticking to CD, we're sticking to CDC, and U8, U4, U9, U12. We're gonna go this grassroots soccer style. What do you see can be improved in each category to like you said, let's make these kids continue to have fun and develop? And what do you see as a positive from the CDC for these age groups, and what do you see as a negative for these age groups?
I I prefer not to go to positive and negative. I like to look at it this way, Steve, if you're okay with it.
Yes, of
I
course.
talk about my experiences. I talk about traveling. I talk about coaching my two sons. I talk about my experiences. You could see the white hair, the white mind. I have that, so I can actually speak about it. Okay, I've traveled all across Canada, and all I hear is people having issues in different provinces with different things. And I remember standing up in one province and saying in one meeting to a bunch of coaches and parents and saying, hey, you know what? Let's take stock of what we have right now in this great country of ours, Canada. Because when I went to the Dominican Republic with the Canadian Premier League and we did our first preseason training with all the clubs there, I went off on a side trip to watch some of the young kids that were playing. They don't have not even anything close to what the young Canadian kids have. Brand new shoes, brand new uniforms every 6 months, great fields, and everyone complains about fields from Ontario to BC to Quebec all over that they're not manicured, they're not this, they're not that. Stop the complaining. Stop the whining. Because if you go to places like the Dominican, you go to Cuba, you go to Honduras, I could go on and on. They would wish to have what the young Canadian boy and girl have when it comes to training facilities, when it comes to uniforms, when it comes to shoes, equipment, even coaching. Because I think, and we'll get into this, I think we have some of the brightest and smartest grassroots coaches anywhere in the world. And they have not been given the respect that they deserve. Canadian grassroots coaches. And now, hopefully, with Canada getting to the World Cup, we're going to start having some respect for our Canadian grassroots coaches, okay? So I can't give you the positives or the negatives, Stevie. That's not for me, okay? What is for me is to tell the parents, the coaches that are watching your show right now is take stock, look in the mirror, stop complaining. Parents, coaches, take stock of what you have. It is a lot, and it is good, and it is positive in many, many ways. Because, again, other parts of the world do not have the facilities. I can go on, okay, Stevie? And it's the complaints and the issues we have. You think in Honduras, in Cuba, in Guatemala, in El Salvador, they're complaining about the things that we're complaining about? Maybe, but I truly believe they're not. Why? Because all they want is a ball that's at least in half decent shape, some shoes maybe that don't have holes in them, a t-shirt, some shorts, and away we go. No other complaints. And you know what? For the most time, the coaches in these different countries give the ball. They don't even set up the teams, and they let the kids play. We have too much structure, too much do this, do that. And it's mind-blowing. It's just mind-blowing, Stevie.
Yeah. No, and you're the second guest that I asked this question to, and it's great to get two people's perspective on it. And we had our guest Stephen the other day, the other week, and he brought up coming from England to Canada, and the English soccer power. We put it on the same level as Italy, Spain, and so on and so forth. And he said, our fields were like, you're running up, you're running down, you're running up, you're running down. Nothing's leveled. The jerseys were collected by a fellow volunteer, washed and brought back the next day, right? The next game. We're spoiled. We
Yeah.
are, and that was the frustration for a lot of, and myself too. am and continue to be hard on Canada because I felt that we wasted a lot of years. We wasted a lot of years because we were stubborn. We didn't want to listen to the right people. We
Correct.
didn't want to. We didn't want to take constructive criticism. We
Correct.
thought we had all the answers, and we didn't. And and it's something that's very important to me. I care about Canada. I'm Canadian. Yes, I wear the Italy crest. I'm very proud. My parents are immigrants of Italy, and I'm used to following it. But I care about Canada. It's the frustration part for Canada that's hit me for the longest time, because seeing a lot of friends go through and try to make an impact, try to make a change. We talked about really smart people, smart soccer minds that just weren't listened to. What has changed in the mentality of Canada? Because let's put it out there, Anthony. It's not because of the CDC that Canada made the World Cup. Let's just be very clear. The CDC did not exist when these players were training. There was smart, intelligent people that knew the game, that were crafting these guys to start in Canada and apply their trade in Europe, and find Europe or wherever they were playing MLS, and fine tune their skills so that we could build this team. This is not CDC that created this. Let's just be straight with everybody.
Look, what's changed? That's what you're asking me. What's
Yeah,
changed?
my question is, what's changed with the mentality from Canada itself, the government, the board?
I think that they're starting to realize that there's a lot of good clubs and academies that are doing a lot of things. There's a few that I can mention, but I'm not going to go into which ones I believe are doing a great job. And they've really professionalized some of these youth clubs, some of these academies, where they've produced world class players now that you're seeing. They're running their youth clubs as small little mini pro clubs and academies, and that's the way it should be. Listen, Steve, let's talk about your province, Quebec. I've spent tons of time in the last 5 years working where I was in Quebec. I got to tell you, you are
I
very
need to get
lucky.
you back. I need to get you back to talk to my club.
Well, listen, I got to tell you, the time that I spent in Quebec, you're very lucky and fortunate to live in that province that takes the game so seriously as they do. And I'll tell you why. I visited a number of sportitude clubs, okay? A number of them. Unbelievable structure, unbelievable the way they run it, unbelievable how serious it is. I traveled last year to a number of clubs. Again, I tell people all across Canada, and I come from the big province of Ontario, and the big bad city, the ugly city of Toronto. Okay, you guys in Quebec, you got it right. You're running it like a European mentality. The training sessions, the facilities, the mentality, the seriousness. I've seen it with my own eyes, from the sportitudes to the youth clubs to the trainers to the players. Guys, Quebec is the real deal. There are hidden gems continuously. I love continuously going to Quebec to scout and find players. Why? Every time I go there, boom, I hit a jackpot with a player or two. So, Stevie, sometimes, as they say, the grass isn't greener on the other side. So, what you might think in Quebec there's issues with, dude, I'm telling you, as an experience, what I saw, what I've experienced a number of times in Quebec right now, try not to complain as much. I'm not saying specifically you, but everyone in
Yeah,
general,
no, for sure.
because what I saw, what I experienced, the people I talked to, the seriousness, the mentality, wow. It was a European mentality. The way I saw some of these kids at Sportitude, half a day at school, half a day training. Incredible. The fields that they use, beautiful. I went to some of the youth clubs. You have some of the top coaches anywhere in Canada. Facilities, training, the seriousness. Calma. Quebec is doing things good. Trust me, Stevie.
Good, good, good. I'm happy to hear that from you, especially. But I believe, and we've had people from Soccer Quebec on. I believe in them. Uh, I believe in their mentality and what they want to do. I believe in all that. I just don't want the politics to take over at a certain point, because when things go too well, politics and the evilness of the human takes over, right? And that's the thing that frustrates me the most, because, as you say, things are going well in Quebec, and you know what? I agree. I think they are well, but I think they could be much better if these guys and these clubs and these sportitudes will be able to just check their ego a bit, check their ego, and share with one another and come together as either clubs, academies, sportitude, however you want to name it, and share information between each other. I think that they would be even more impressive.
I say it always, Stevie, wherever I've gone, and I've done over, like I said, over 100 of youth club presentations at the Canadian Premier League. I've talked from coast to coast with clubs, parents, coaches, and parents. And what I like to tell everyone when I start my presentation is this: is I'm a parent of two men now. They're not boys. One is 28, one is 22. As you can see, I'm old.
A vecchiaia, Tony.
It's past my bedtime, by the way, at this time, Marcel and Stevie. But what I tell the parents is this, Stevie, to be very serious and very honest with you right now. And I tell the coaches this as well, and the kids and the players that are there. I look at the players in the eye and I say to them, hey, boys, you don't have to listen to me for the next hour, but I need your full attention for 1 minute right now. And here's what I need you to understand. You need to take the time after training sessions, after games, after tournaments, to thank your mom and dad. Why? For the money that they've invested in you, the time that they've put in, their life that they've turned upside down to get you to training on time, to take time away from work, to rearrange their family events, to make sure that all they want to see from you is a smile on your face, that you're enjoying the game. So, players, make sure you take the time to thank your mom and dad, number one. Number two, your coaches are not perfect. They're not Carlo Ancelotti. They're not Pep Guardiola and Mourinho. They are there to try and help you. They care about you on and off the field. So parents, relax, chill. Don't go at them like they're, the worst human being in the world because maybe your kid isn't playing enough. Have a reasonable discussion, but find a coach who your kids can listen to, enjoy, and learn from. That is the most important, Stevie. Look, politics are always going to be there, Stevie. I went to BC. They have politics. Alberta, Quebec, Ontario, politics everywhere. But guess what? I don't care, and we shouldn't care about the politics anymore. You know why? Because we finally, after 30 plus years, have gotten back to the World Cup. We have a professional league in Canada for the first time after 30 years, Canadian Premier League coast to coast. We have to care about the Canadian Premier League and, of course, the three MLS squads, the Canadian squads, of course, absolutely. And we have to care about the Canadian player, how to develop. All this politics and all this BS and all this garbage, we don't need to waste our time and energy on. Let's start working about how we get this player developed to the highest level possible. And if that fails, hey, in the end, if the player had a great time, learned how to smile, and they respect you at the end, you've won.
Well said, Tony. If we could circle back, and I want to go, I talk about my province. This is what I know. I don't like to go into the other province because I don't know. But now I take advantage because I have someone who does know. Here in Quebec, like you said, Sporitude, we have some academies. I'm not going to go really into the academies. It's not something that I grew up with. For me, it was youth clubs and so on and so forth. Uh, but how does it work in Ontario? Now we spoke about it. There is some volunteer parents, but Ontario has some great programs. Again, we don't have to go into the specific ones, but are they, depending the program, there's qualified coaches and volunteer coaches. How, what's stronger in Ontario, the academy route or the youth club route?
Oh, that's an easy question, Stevie, and I'll tell you why it's an easy question. It's got to be at least 10 to 15 years ago on the Fan 590 here in Toronto, the All Sports Station. I did a two-part series, clubs versus academies. And so what I did back then, it wasn't Sportsnet yet, it was still the Fan 590, is I invited 4 different technical directors and a president from youth clubs. One night, we talked about the pros and cons. The next night, I invited some from academies. And we discussed, we debated, we opened up the phone lines. And in the end, guess what? There's good clubs, there's good academies, there's bad clubs, there's bad academies. There's good coffee, there's bad coffee. There's good, veal cutlet sandwiches, there's bad cutlet sandwiches, right? But you as a parent have to do your homework. You have to research, you have to talk to people, you have to make sure that the money is worth it. You have to make sure that your son or daughter is fully invested in it. Do not force them to something that you want. They have to want it, and then you invest the time and the money. So which one is better? No. To me, there's a lot of great youth clubs in Ontario and across Canada, and there's a lot of quality academies in Canada. So one does not do it better than the other. You have to do your homework and find where your son or daughter is comfortable with and where you're getting the best coaching. Talk, ask, listen, go watch, and choose.
Nice.
But if you
Great.
go on YouTube, I still think it's up there, and you Google Fan 590 Clubs versus Academies or OSA TV, when they posted it, you'll find it up there. We had, like I said, academies and clubs, because this was the topic back, I think, 10, 15 years ago. And I said, okay, let's fix this. Let's get them both on to talk about it, debate it. And, the youth clubs came on there and say, this is why we are better. The academy said, well, this is why we're better. And so I looked at them and I said, nah. Because guess what, Stevie? One of my sons, the youngest, went to academies and clubs. He loved them both. My oldest, my firstborn, 28-year-old, never went to an academy, just clubs. Funny enough, the firstborn, the 28-year-old, made it to the regional team here in the GTA in Toronto. The youngest was a pretty good player in his own right as well, but he went to academy and he went to a club. He enjoyed them both. So, this thing again, see, this is where you talked about the politics. This is politics.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Who cares,
Stevie? Why do we got to talk about, is clubs better or academies better? Who cares? Let's develop the player on and off the field. Let's get the quality. Let's do what's right for the player. It doesn't matter if it's a club or an academy. All it is in the end is a name. Find the quality that's in behind that door.
Before we go to
before we go, I got to interrupt. Remember I said I had a surprise? This is the Milan podcast, right?
Yes, of course.
It took me an hour tonight in my basement here to dig up some gems that you're going to love. And your audience is going to love, because it's the Milan show, okay? As I said, I worked with the North York Rockets 30 plus years ago. And I was lucky enough to be part of an exhibition series where Benfica, your AC Milan, and the Canadian Soccer League All-Stars were part of. Now, I dug up a picture. I hope you can see it. Can you see it, Stevie?
Push it more to your left. Push it more to your left and back it up a bit.
How's that?
There you go.
Look at that. That's Varsity Stadium in Toronto. AC Milan versus the Canadian Soccer League All-Stars. That's Peter Sarantopoulos that's playing for the Canadian Soccer League All-Stars, okay? That is a memory, and I still have this in black and white, a beautiful picture.
Amazing.
And I'll show you something else that I took the time to dig up. This is, again, tell me if you can see it. I'll read you some of the names, but this is...
Yeah, again, back it up.
Back it up, okay.
Yeah.
People can't see that, but I'm going to read you some names quickly from this. Okay, this is back in 1991, where Benfica came to play AC Milan in the Canadian Soccer League All-Stars. You had Massimo Agostini, Carlo Ancelotti, Carletto, a world-famous coach now, manager, a guy that's done unbelievable, as we just saw yesterday, okay? Yeah. Carlo Ancelotti, Franco Baresi, Alessandro Costa Curta, Daniele Massaro, Frank Rijkaard, Paolo Maldini, one of my favorites of all time, elegant, beautiful, sophisticated, a proud player. Roberto Donatoni, who also played in MLS for a cup of coffee. But unbelievable memories, and Milan was here, and as I said, with Benfica, and I just wanted to share. And you could see here as well, right in the front, it's Andrea Galliani and Carlo Berlusconi. And all the executives and directors were named that were coming. Silvio Berlusconi, Paolo Berlusconi. These are memories. And again, this is Milan, the Milan podcast. But again, these are cherished memories to me and many people in my age here. Because back then, a lot of them followed the club back in their country, right? I wasn't part of that. I was ridiculed, mocked, laughed, basically spit upon, because almost 50 years of my life, I followed Canada, the national team of Canada, and I followed the local scene, and I followed the Canadian players. People look at me and they laugh and say, Anthony, but your parents are from Italy, your family came here. Why aren't you supporting the Azzurri? But, sure, like when they win the World Cup like they've done, or a Euro, I'm happy, but do I really care? Am I invested in it? No, I could care less. Because guess what? I was the only clown back when Canada won the Gold Cup to have my flag go on the street, and people thought I had lost my marbles celebrating Canada winning the Gold Cup. Okay, and
Yeah.
this is what's important. Supporting, like, look, Portuguese support Portugal, the Italians support Italians, Spanish, we want support Canada, support these young men. We've supported the women. These young men need our support more now than ever. I don't mind that there's hundreds of thousands on the bandwagon, Stevie, okay? But you talk about grassroots, you talk about all these issues back there in Quebec, who cares? We need to now look at the big picture. We're getting to the big stage, okay? And if we don't start supporting Canada over Portugal, over Italy, over Germany, we're not going to be able to get to World Cups time and time again like some of these other nations are. So let's support Canada. I was getting my COVID shot. I'll make you laugh quickly, Stevie, with my wife, my second one in the sun. It was Euro time. Italy was playing whatever. I had my red Canada jersey on. This guy is behind me. I won't tell you what nation he was supporting. He goes, dude, he goes, Canada hockey? I go, no, Canada soccer. He laughed. He goes, they're not in the Euro. I said, you think I could care less that they're not in the Euro? He goes, why do you got a Canada jersey on? I says, I'm getting ready for the World Cup qualification games that are coming up. He laughed. He goes, Canada's going nowhere. They've never gone anywhere for 50 years or further. I go, dude, check back with me in a few months and we'll see if they're going anywhere. Guess what, Stevie? They're going.
Yeah, they are going. They are going. And an important one of the important building blocks to them going is the CPL. And I
Correct.
know, you're heavily involved in the CPL when it first started, now back again. You know, just explain to everybody how important it is, to have the CPL in Canada, to have this end goal for someone playing youth soccer or whatever they choose, if they choose to have this goal, whatever age they're at. How important is it? And as you travel across the country, is it something that's catching on?
Listen, the Canadian Premier League was created to give an opportunity for Canadian players, Canadian coaches, Canadian administrators. God bless the owners of the Canadian Premier League that have put down hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars to invest and believe in the Canadian player, Canadian coaches, and different Canadian cities where they have started. This is important because, Stevie, before the Canadian Premier was in existence, as we've been in now 4 years, okay, there was the old Canadian Soccer League, like I said, 30 plus years back. There was 30 plus years of a gap of no Canadian professional league from coast to coast. It was only MLS. And you want me to be frank and honest and put the cards on the table? This I can do. God bless Joey Saputo. I think he's one of the best owners in all of the world. Why? Because all he does is put his money down. He's an unbelievable owner, and he wants to win. And I love an owner like that. And he's a one-man show, not a corporate big conglomerate, okay? So God bless Joey. But
Eh.
Montreal, Vancouver, TFC, they have never, until recently now, because the chickens have come home to roost, have never invested and believed as much in the Canadian player as they do now, because the spotlight is on them with players going to the World Cup, with Canadian players getting sold. They're getting better and better and better. Now, where years ago, the three MLS teams would put a Canadian on the bench as a token to say, here you go. Here's your Canadian boy. He's on the bench. You'll be happy with that. Really? Jonathan Osorio from TFC can play with many top European nations. Samuel Piet, Cone from Montreal right now. I guarantee you that kid's going to hit skyrocket and going to go to Europe. I could go on and on and on. Max Crepeau. I could go on and on, Stevie.
Yes, of course.
My point is that now, thank God, not because I work in it, not because I'm part of CPL, there's an avenue for CPL player, for young Canadian players to play in CPL. Abzi from your province, Mo Farsi played. I could go on and on. Many Alessandro Rigi, who grew up in that system in Quebec, and now with Valor played with Halifax. These are good quality Quebec kids that have grew up in that system, now have an opportunity to play in their homeland. where Stevie, back in the day, for the longest time, if you were Canadian and you went to Europe or South America, you had to beg and plead to even be looked at in a training session. They laughed and mocked at you. They closed the door on you. They ridiculed you. They said, stop wasting our time. But now, Canadian young men have an opportunity to say, hey, I can start at CPL, and who knows where I can go from there. And who knows if I can get sold.
Yeah.
So,
And exactly like you do, like you scout for CPL, now it's an avenue for, this young player to play in his hometown, not have to try the hometown or in his home country, not have to travel a ton and, possibly now be looked at from, hey, the Europeans are saying, well, I'm heading to the States because obviously just because of population reasons and, and they're set up down there. Now there's probably saying, "Hey, think I need to stop in Canada now. I think I need to check the CPL as well."
let's put it this way. You had an unbelievable assistant coach a few years ago back with you in Montreal. He's a good friend of mine. We don't need to mention his name. Unbelievable mind, unbelievable coach, unbelievable tactician, knows the game inside out in North America and in Europe. Okay. As soon as Canada started to get closer and closer to that World Cup qualification, I would get calls from him, messages from him. And then all of a sudden, I would get a flood of calls from so many other guys that I haven't heard from years, from Portugal, from Germany, and from Sweden, of all places. Anthony, we got to talk. We got to figure out what's going on there. I go, really? Now we got to talk? I've been telling you for years that guys are here. There's hidden gems. See, what they're looking at is this, Stevie. Oh, we got to find the next Davies. I said, relax, calm down.
Yeah.
Davies is a phenomenon.
Yes.
Jonathan David is a phenomenon. But I said, guess what? You got Richie Laria, who you have to look at players like him. You've got other world-class players on Canada, Stevie. And now the world is going to see at the World Cup that there's good young talent that can actually play with some of the top clubs in Europe. And to me, what's important again is when you are in this country and you're traveling coast to coast, okay? I think a lot of times my message to some of the youth coaches, what I've learned is don't judge a player on his height, on his speed, on his team because his team is winning a lot of trophies and, et cetera, et cetera. Look at the player, not once, not twice, but a number of times. What I do is when I watch players is I have my own personal checklist of what I'm looking for. It's too long to get into here. But not only my checklist that I watch, not one game, but 2 or 3, 4 times the player that I'm really interested in. I then pick up the phone and I call the coach a number of times to talk about the coach. Not only about the player on the field, Stevie, but off the field. I need to know if off the field this young man is the real deal, that he's not going to be a headache. Because as I like to say, this young man is a brand in himself. And these owners that are investing millions and millions and millions do not want to waste or get in any, headaches with a young man that might have off-field issues. So when I'm going around scouting, watching games, I'm not just looking for all the great things on the field. That's obviously a lot of it, 75, 80% of it. Yes, we get, but I need to learn a lot about off the field, how serious this young man is about his training, how serious he is mentally. Is he watching games? Is he listening? Is he digesting? Is he working on the things he needs to work on? So these are the things that I look at. And look, I love the interaction with university coaches, college coaches, youth coaches, because again, they care, Stevie. And they want nothing more for their young man to go on to success. And so they are going to tell me the truth about every aspect they can, because they don't want me to come back and say, hey, coach, you gave me a player that really, isn't what he is. And
They
then
gave
I
me a
look like
lemon.
a donkey, and then we go round and round. So,
And it's funny. This is something that for me, it really, at the professional level, what I watch, either MLS uh, or let's say Serie A or EPL, and now I'm seeing it coaching 9-year-olds. How important is the psychology of it? Like how they react in practice, how they respond to constructive criticism. Are you able to see the player in a practice scenario?
great question, Stevie. Great question. Look, you know this from the pro game. There's some great practice players and there's some great game day players, okay? I think gone are the days of the yelling, screaming, crazy coaches that I had as a young boy, when I used to get yelled at and screamed at because I made a bad pass or I didn't run back and defend properly, etc., etc. I think today's game has changed completely because these young men are sharp. They watch a lot of games. They read a lot of things online. They know that the real educated, smart, world-class coaches, Carlo Ancelotti, Carletto, Mourinho, and others, are not going to yell and freak and chew their players out consistently, especially with the camera focused on them. That's why sometimes I wish there was a camera consistently focused on both youth coaches on either end of the field to show them how they are acting towards these young men and women and girls, yelling and screaming like they're playing in a World Cup. Like, guys, talk to your players in training, in the game, explain to them what they did right, what they did wrong, work on it in training the next time, continue up having open dialogue, communication, be transparent, help that young man, help that young girl, help them overcome some of the difficulties that they have. Because again, Stevie, it's just a game. And mentally speaking, you don't know what's going through that young man's head. You don't know what's in his family life. You don't know what's going on at school. Maybe he's struggling. This could be an outlet for this young boy to play the game he loves. And if you're going to pile on him because he had a bad game or a bad couple games, you're a moron. I got no time for you.
Yeah, I agree with the screaming and chewing out and all that stuff that doesn't belong it doesn't belong in everyday life, let alone on a soccer field. One thing though that I do see, especially at the youth level, seeing it now as coaches, I think it's important that we teach and we give a little bit of constructive criticism, but I'm told we need to bring back a little bit of the respect. I think they're sharp. I'm not saying that they're not sharp, but I'm saying our youth in itself needs to learn what respect is, and that when it's time to come and play soccer, it's time to come and play soccer. And I started off a practice this week by in the CDC different drills, and I had the opportunity to be on one of the stations, and I talked to the kids and I said, okay, who plays Fortnite? Raise your hand. Everybody raised their hand. Who plays Roblox? Who plays PlayStation? So I said, okay, guys, everybody has fun playing that? Yeah, I love it. I love it. Okay, forget about it for the next hour. Because in the next hour, you need to be focused and you have to think about what's happening here. Think about it like when you're playing a video game. You're thinking about that video game. Now I need you to play this game. This is the game that you need to. Have you seen a major difference, and especially you scouting in the CPL, with the different generations that you've been scouting in terms of how they relate to the gaming world and the just how society is changing?
Sure, but respect is a two-way street, Steve. If you as a coach, and I'm not saying you, I'm saying in general coaches, if you're going to show up on time to the training that is at 6:30, like you said, if you're going to run a training that is very involved for the players, and if you're going to run a training that is different each and every time, and it's not the same old training, these young men, these young women are going to say, all right, this coach of ours really understands and really is immersed and has really spent a lot of time to help us because he's bringing different training sessions. He's showing up on time. He's serious. He's not yelling at us. I can guarantee you that the majority of your players will show you respect back by giving you that respect, by listening, by doing the drills right, etc., etc., etc. Look, the games, we see pro athletes playing Fortnite and all this stuff. That's never going to change, Stevie, right? I know what you're saying, but it's different. Back in the day, again, when I was playing and traveling all across Canada, it was different. You made a mistake. I remember a coach giving me a slap on the back of the head because I made a bad
Can't do
pass.
that anymore, Anthony. We
My
can't do that
father,
anymore, Anto.
my father, yeah, you can't do. My father would give me double after for messing up. Today, you would never think of doing that because why should you do that? You should never ever
No.
lay a finger on any kid. So my point is, you talk about respect. I get you, Stevie, but it's a two-way street, and you will find out the respect of the serious players that you have as time goes on. The ones that are going to ask you questions, the ones that are really, focused on what you're doing, the ones that will pick your brain. You'll see that, right? You're not going to get the whole team with this respect.
Oh
because
no, for sure. Yes.
some are not. Some of your colleagues, coaches, don't have the respect that they show you. What do
True.
you say to them?
Very true. Very true.
So,
Two-way street.
yep.
I know we're getting. I can't believe it. We're almost at an hour here. Presidente is giving me the hey ho. It's time for Anto needs to go. He needs to have
My
his
nap.
your nap or your
I'm
midnight
tired.
ritual, your nightly ritual to before we tuck you in. I want to again just finish off with the CPL, just because again it's something that we need to bring out into the spotlight, and I hope the local soccer show could be one of those avenues to get it more exposure, especially here in Quebec, because we don't have a CPL team. Uh, how do you see the CPL and the MLS? Again, if you were the one who had the magic wand and can make this harmonize beautifully, what would be the ideal situation how the CPL and the MLS could work together so that they can both grow?
Look, Stevie, I think we need to focus in on CPL, right? We are just taking baby steps. As we said, we're 4 years in. What's MLS? Year 26, 27, something like that. They got to focus on what they're doing. And they're doing a great job in some of the markets they've gone to. Like Charlotte is lights out, fantastic. Atlanta, on and on. We need to worry about what we're doing. I can't speak for the league. I'm not the league spokesman. I'm not an owner.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
not
for sure.
chairman. I'm just telling you from me. Let's walk before we can run. Let's just focus on what we need to do, which is getting to all the Canadian kids and making them understand that there is a new pathway. There is a new professional league called the Canadian Premier League that now you can aspire to play in. You don't have to stop at the age of 18 and 19 and say, well, that's it. I'm done. And there's nowhere to look forward to. There is now. It's called the Canadian Premier League. And it's something that is very, very important. What MLS is doing, God bless them. Keep doing what they're doing. We need just to focus on what we're doing. In your province, before we close it and before I let you go, there's somebody that's very near and dear to my heart that I have to mention. I don't know if he watches, but I hope he does. And I call him the Godfather. And he is so intelligent. He is so unique. He is so valued in my life. And I think in a lot of people across Canada and in Quebec. And he does a lot of great work. And he's helped many times that I've come to Quebec. And his name is Valerio Gazzola. This gentleman, this professor, this scholar that I like to say, is a guy that you should embrace even more and more and more and more in Quebec. Why? Because Val cares about the player first and foremost, and that's it. Val cares about the province of Quebec. He loves it inside out. Val cares about the coaches. So I couldn't leave without, especially knowing you guys in the great province of Quebec, giving him a shout out because he is the real deal, and you should really pick his brain. You talk about grassroots, he's the real deal.
Yeah, we're gonna have Presidente reach out, and would love to have him on the local soccer show again to pick his brain, like we did to yours, Anthony. And I'm proud that the local soccer show, for anybody who's gonna watch this live now, or tomorrow, or on their jog, or whenever they want to watch it, because that's the beauty of the local soccer show. You can pretty much watch it anytime you want, and and especially for us here in Quebec, introduced to Anthony and what he's done for the CPL and what he continues to do. And again, I thank you. There's one last thing, and I don't know. Again, I don't want to put you in a bad situation there, but there's the famous Don Garber tweet there that came out, and basically, uh, in a nutshell, MLS was the reason that Canada made to the World Cup. I want to discuss that because Presidente is in the background. He's had the same reaction that you've had. I've talked to a lot of
Just
my friends.
let's leave it at this, Steve. Go to my Twitter. My Twitter is #4, the #4, and my last name Totera.
Okay.
That's all I'll say. If you go back to when Canada qualified,
Yeah.
even before that, I think in February, I tweeted about what you're talking about, and then I
Yeah.
tweeted again when we qualified. What was said. Okay, look, I have nothing to say about that. I love our Canadian players. I love our Canadian coaches. I think what John Hurban is, and I got to tip my hat to John Hurban because I'll tell you, Stevie, this is only the second time I'm saying it on your show. When John Hurban got hired, I got to be honest, and I've eaten humble pie, and I will say it for the record again a second time. I didn't think he was the guy. But you know what? God bless you, John. Thank you, John. I'll eat humble pie. I was wrong. You were the right guy. You brought us to the World Cup. I thank you. Canada thanks you. thank you for doing what you did. And look, let MLS do what MLS has done for the number of years. Let us concentrate about Canada, the Canadian Premier League, Quebec, all the provinces. And guess what? Who knows, Stevie, in 10, 15 years, if we can't go toe to toe with MLS? Guess what, Stevie? I'll let you in a little secret. Maybe you don't know. We beat already an MLS club twice, the Vancouver Whitecaps, Pacific
Yeah.
and Calgary in the first year. And
Yeah.
I hate to say it because I think he's from your province, Mark Dos Santos, right after that game got the axe with Vancouver because Pacific, our team did the job. I mean, it's a one-off. It's a Canadian championship, but we're a little baby. And we took out already, a giant that's been there for a lot of years. So give us some time and watch how we grow.
Very well put. Very well put. Guys, an hour in. I think this is enough for everybody's jog and walk. And I'm going to let Anto continue on his night, whatever he chooses to do, go to sleep
Mi vai
or
pure, segno
yeah,
staccato. Basta.
go to sleep or have a little bite to eat on the way. I know I'll probably have a little
Bite to eat. It's 10
bite to eat.
o'clock.
Yeah,
I'm
but
going
I'm
to
gonna
have
have a bite to eat
indigestion
on
at
my
that
way
time.
to bed. That's okay. We'll digest all the time. You know, Anto, in closing off, again, just your little spiel on on how people can follow you and see what you do for work and how they can maybe reach out to you and maybe pick your brain like we did tonight.
Yeah, 4Totera is my Twitter. Number 4, my last name Totera. Hey, look, I love the people of Quebec. I've said that openly. I've said it a number of times. You live in a special province, a special place, Stevie. Do not underestimate where you're coming from, the training, the people there. It's good. Don't always think that the grass is greener elsewhere. Please.
Perfect. Thank you very much. You're gonna
Thank you,
bid you
guys.
adieu. Thank you. I'm gonna remove you now, put you back in the green room. You could choose to stay or you could
Ciao.
choose to go. And we're gonna close it off. Thank you, fellow Cusentino. Vate curche e ne vedremo domani. Ciao.
Ciao, ciao, bello. Ci vediamo. Ciao.